Hello, Internet! Welcome to... Mike, wait, we've done this before, haven't we? At the end of last year, I got on this very couch to let you guys know that because of the support you've shown this channel and the amazing community of theorists we've been able to develop, I've been working on some cool projects that we're going to be rolling out throughout 2015, and today is the first of those. Knowing that you guys love the Super End Card tournaments at the end of Game Theory so much, I got together with my friends Marcus and Karf to rethink the way video game debates happen, and in the process we came up with a show we like to call DeadLock. But before I show you the video, I want to make it clear that this channel belongs to all you loyal theorists watching, so let me know what you think. If you like what you see, great, leave a comment. If you don't like what you see, not so great, but hey, still leave a comment. Matpat is a dick turd. At the end of the day, it's my goal to create cool, fun, interesting videos that you guys want to watch. So I need to know that I'm doing that, or that if I'm not doing that, I should stop making what I'm making and make new videos, if that makes sense. Thank you, Skip. Thank you. And I think that's about everything that I wanted to say for now, so without wasting any more of your time, here it is, our first big premiere for 2015, our first big exciting thing, DeadLock. I hope you like it. I think you will. I think you will. History is full of great rivalries. Hatfields versus McCoys, Bloods versus Crips, Plants versus Zombies. But of all history's rivalries, none compare with SNES versus Genesis. It's the one that introduced the world to the phrase console wars and has plagued the gaming community ever since. So which 16-bit console truly was the most influential? The Nintendo powerhouse or the Sega bad boy? It's time we put this decades-old debate to rest. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to DeadLock.
Of Miyamoto.
This one's for you, Sonic. Let's start with the numbers. With a beautiful 16-bit graphic system displayed on a 320 by 224 resolution, 512 colors, a built-in synthesizer with 6 sound channels, and 64 kilobytes of RAM, the Sega Genesis was a gamer's dream.
Seriously, Matt? I would think you're smarter than that, bringing up the numbers, considering the Super Nintendo had a higher display resolution, over 32,000 colors compared to your wimpy 512, 8 audio channels, and 120 kilobytes of RAM, which I might not have a mathy channel like yours, but it's 2 times that of Sega. In the 90s, the Super Nintendo was a juggernaut, bitch.
The 90s? Just about that same time that joke was relevant.
I don't even know why we're having this discussion. There isn't a single thing that the Sega has that the Super Nintendo does not outperform.
That's what I thought you'd say. I activate my trap. Blast processing.
Oh, come on!
Seriously?
Objection on the grounds that that's not even a real thing. I thought this was supposed to be a legitimate debate, unless everything you hear in the 90s ad campaigns are real and you believe them.
The blast processor was more than a mere slogan, Gerard. It was the nickname of the 7.67 megahertz computer speed the Sega was capable of. Out of curiosity, what was the Super Nintendo CPU speed? What was that? I can't hear you. Speak up for the good people at home, would you?
Okay, fine. 3.56, but it doesn't matter.
So the Sega Genesis was faster than the Super Nintendo. Perhaps the mascot was an appropriate choice. Minimum time to get there. I said, perhaps the mascot was an appropriate... Pay attention to me while I'm trying to close this amazing argument here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was watching some guy's YouTube channel where he proves Mario was faster than Sonic the Hedgehog. What a coincidence. And speaking of mascots, numbers are meaningless if you don't have good games. So, let's get to that, shall we?
Games. Yes, games. Sonic the Hedgehog was arguably the best of the What?
You're really gonna leave that as your ace in the hole.
It's an amazing game.
Oh my god, it's your only amazing game. Don't get me wrong, Sonic is responsible for my love of chili dogs and more or less was the embodiment of the 90s, but it's really Sega's only saving grace. Other than that, I guess what? Vector Man didn't suck too much.
What about Streets of Rage, Splatterhouse, Golden Axe? Sega was the go-to console if you liked beat 'em ups. It defined the genre, and it revolutionized the way sports games were made.
Sports games? Really? Look, man, I know you're getting desperate, aren't you?
Just because they're not your type of games doesn't mean that they're not worth mentioning. Genesis had games that were groundbreaking in genres that SNES gamers just didn't care about.
Okay, I'm there with you. But if we're talking about groundbreaking in their genre, let's look at the Super Nintendo library, okay? Rail Shooter, Star Fox, Racing Game, F-Zero, Kart Racer, Mario Kart, RPGs? Ooh, take your pick. Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, Super Mario RPG, platformers, all right? Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, freaking Street Fighter 2 is the fighting game that all other fighting games still fail to surpass. Super Metroid created its own genre that Castlevania has replicated ever since, and Link to the Past is still in contention for one of the best Zelda games of all time. Look at any list of top 100 video games of all time, and you'll see SNES games after SNES games. Sega Genesis games are lucky to be included on those lists.
Admittedly, that's a lot, but I'd say you're also at an unfair advantage. Notice how many of those titles are produced by Nintendo. Sega had games like Rocket Knight, Gunstar Heroes, Comic Zone, brilliant, underappreciated games that hold up to this day, but the reason you only remember Sonic is because all the other great names on the Sega were produced by third parties. And I should also mention Sega invented the game case. Before Sega, games came in crummy cardboard boxes that your mom threw away. With game cases, it became much more manageable to sort your games, setting the example that all gaming companies still use to this day.
That's great, you guys. You guys invented a plastic box. Bravo, Sega. Bra freaking Bo, you sure did it. You guys had a few gems, but you had to dig through a mountain of altered beasts and kid chameleons to get there.
At least our Mortal Kombat had blood.
Okay, we had it in the second one, and at least we didn't have to press start to change between punching and kicking.
Ooh, low blow, dude. That's like a Johnny Cage level ball punch there.
Hey man, the truth hurts. Let's finish this. Closing arguments. Super Nintendo was almost the perfect 16-bit console. With superior hardware, except for one small stat that games didn't even use, and many, many more superior games, it's no wonder they kept making them even after the N64 debuted. The Super Nintendo defined genres. It is in fact the greatest, longest lasting, and more importantly, the original 16-bit console. Sega Genesis was at best a cheap knockoff with a fun mascot.
The Sega Genesis debuted 2 years before the Super Nintendo.
Really?
Sega wasn't even competing with the Super Nintendo. It was competing with the regular Nintendo. The fact that it lasted so long in the marketplace is truly a testament to its genius engineering.
Okay, well regardless, the Super Nintendo laid the groundwork for all consoles that followed it.
Really? Let me ask you something. Close your eyes, Gerard.
Fine.
Close your eyes. Yeah, thank you. How would you feel about a console with a wireless controller, downloadable games, online play, an official online marketplace, and backwards compatibility?
That sounds like a current generation console to me.
Exactly. But what I was describing there was the Sega Genesis. It was the first console to have wireless controllers, one of the first to utilize online play through Sega MegaNet, have an online marketplace with the Sega Channel, and backward compatibility with the Mega Drive. A feat, mind you, that the SNES could only try to mimic with the Super Game Boy. It may have just started off as a marketing gimmick, but Genesis truly did what Nintendo didn't.
Oh my god, first blast processing, and now this?
I agree with you, Gerard. It's hard to deny that the SNES was a superior console.
I win! I win! I win! Thank you! Thank you! Suck it, Sega! USA! USA! USA!
For its time. Yes, it was a better machine with more big-name titles, but remember, this debate is about which one was more important to the history of gaming. I submit that the Genesis was years ahead of its time, and that the technology just wasn't there to properly implement its ideas. Without the Genesis, we wouldn't have game cases, wireless controllers, online play, downloadable content. Heck, we might still be playing on cartridges if it wasn't for the Sega CD.
Okay, sure, if technology existed in a vacuum, but with the PC boom, we probably would have had these things regardless.
And history repeated itself again with the Dreamcast. Again, a Sega console far ahead of its time.
Okay, you know what? It's really a question of games versus tech. Genesis was influential for its ideas, poorly implemented or no. SNES was influential for its games and the legacy that those games created.
So it would seem. If it's any consolation, I was an SNES guy myself.
That was just a terrible pun. And that's the way that you wanted to end this episode.
Yes. Yes, it was. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached deadlock. Now the debate is in your hands. Which system truly was the most influential? Click on which side you think wins and finally put an end to this long-standing game debate.